I am Margaret, 65, and for most of my life, I was the perfect mother, the one who always said yes, always forgave, always sacrificed. I raised my children alone after their father left when they were still teenagers. I worked 2 shifts at the textile factory. I sold cakes on weekends. I cleaned offices at night. I did everything so Jessica and Michael could study and have what I never had. Jessica was always brilliant and ambitious, but cold. Even as a child, she looked at me as if I were an obstacle between her and something better. When she married David, my son-in-law, a Wall Street man with a condescending smile, I hoped motherhood would soften her. It didn't. "Mom, you don't understand how the modern world works," Jessica would say whenever I visited. "Let David manage your finances. He knows these things." David would nod with that tone I hated. "Mrs. Margaret, you've done enough. Now rest and let us handle everything." But I was not the helpless old woman they assumed. Through decades of sacrifice, I learned the value of silence and patience. While they thought I only knew how to sew and cook, I invested every spare dollar. I bought small properties in Queens I knew would appreciate. I saved in accounts they didn't know existed. I built a secret safety net because something in the way they looked at me told me I would need it one day. Jessica had a daughter, Emily, my 8-year-old granddaughter, and the only one who treated me with unguarded love. When I visited, Emily would whisper, "Grandma, Mommy says mean things about you when you're not here." Those words broke my heart and prepared me for what was coming. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. Jessica called with an oddly sweet voice. "Mom, we want to invite you to dinner tomorrow, something special. Come early. We want to celebrate you." From the background, David shouted, "That's right, Mrs. Margaret. We'll finally celebrate the way you deserve." The next evening, in an upscale Manhattan restaurant, a waiter greeted me before I reached their table. He handed me a plastic badge. It read, "Limited Guest." Jessica leaned toward me, smiling with a razor's edge. "It means no food, mother-in-law." Michael, my son, laughed as if it were the funniest joke in the world. What happened next changed my life forever. I wore my best blue dress, the one I saved for rare occasions. I fixed my hair, dabbed on a little perfume, and walked to that fancy Manhattan restaurant with my heart full of hope. Maybe they were planning something for my upcoming birthday. Maybe they were finally ready to apologize. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, soft music. I spotted them at a large table, laughing loudly. I approached, smiling, until the waiter intercepted me. "Are you the special guest?" he asked, awkward smile in place. "Yes," I said. "I'm Jessica's mother." He handed me the plastic badge, "Limited Guest." "What does that mean?" I asked, confused. He lowered his voice. "It means you may sit, but you can't order food, only water, ma'am." It felt like a slap. I looked at the table. Jessica covered her mouth to hide a laugh while David recorded on his phone. I sat with that humiliating badge around my neck. Jessica's eyes glittered with malice. "Make sure you ate before coming," she said, loud enough for David to hear. David chuckled. "It's a joke, Mrs. Margaret. You're always so dramatic." But it wasn't a joke. I could see it in their eyes. They were savoring each second of my humiliation. They continued dinner as if nothing had happened, cutting their steaks while I had only a glass of water. The smell tortured me, but worse was watching their delight in my pain. "Mom," Jessica said, dabbing her lips delicately, "you must be wondering why we're here." Her voice had that clinical coldness she used to hurt me. David nodded, chewing, eyes bright with cruel amusement. "David and I have been talking about your future," Jessica went on. "You're 65, you live alone in that old house, and frankly, we worry you can't take proper care of yourself. We found a small, economical care home, perfect for someone at your level." The room tilted around me. David set down his fork, wearing that smile I had learned to hate. "Mrs. Margaret, you fulfilled your purpose. You raised your children. It's time for you to rest. We'll handle everything. David pulled papers from a folder and set them in front of me. We just need your signature. Nothing complicated. They were property transfers, powers of attorney, documents that would render me legally destitute. My house, my savings, everything would be handed to Jessica. It's for your own good, Mom, Jessica insisted. You don't understand investments or taxes. David is a finance expert. He'll know what to do. And don't worry, David added with false gentleness. We'll give you a monthly allowance, say $500 for personal items. Soap, toothpaste, that sort of thing. Jessica giggled. You don't need more than that. The care home provides food and a roof. Heat rose in my chest. The two people I had raised and loved were plotting to take everything I had built through decades of sacrifice. Worse, they did it with calculated cruelty. And if I refused to sign, I asked, my voice trembling. Jessica and David exchanged a look. Mom, Jessica said, soft but threatening. Do you really want to make this the hard way? We can have you declared mentally incompetent. David has contacts, doctors who'll certify you're not well. Think carefully, Mrs. Margaret, David added. A woman your age, living alone, no family visits. It would be easy to convince a judge you need supervision. He reclined, savoring each word. Or you can sign now, voluntarily, and we'll ensure a peaceful old age. The waiter slipped the check onto the table. David glanced at it and smirked. Ah, what a pity. Looks like we only brought enough for our meals. Could you pay for your water? He pointed at my empty glass, mocking. That'll be $25. Jessica pretended to search her purse. Oh, Mom, I don't have change either. Whatever shall we do? They stared at me, waiting for the final humiliation, expecting me to beg for help over $25. Something changed in me. Maybe it was the way David savored his threats, or how Jessica smiled when she said care home. Maybe it was the memory of all those nights I stayed up sewing to pay for their college, or the times I ate rice and beans so they could have steak. I took out my phone, the simple model they always mocked. What are you doing, Mom? Jessica asked. Calling someone to lend you money for the water? David laughed. Who would she call? She has no friends, no family, just us. My fingers didn't shake from fear anymore, but from a cold, steady anger. I typed a single text. Cancel everything immediately. I hit send and put my phone away. Jessica and David kept whispering and laughing as if my life were already signed away. Jessica leaned closer, her heavy perfume suffocating, her eyes glowing with cruelty. You should know the truth, Mom, she shrugged, as if she were doing me a favor. We've already started spending your inheritance, the Tesla, the Los Angeles house, the Europe trip, all thanks to what you'll give us. David puffed up with pride. We calculated everything. Mrs. Margaret, your house in Queens isn't worth much, maybe $150,000 on paper. The Tesla's on lease, easy. And the Los Angeles house, we already locked an escrow. It'll be ours as soon as you cooperate. Then Jessica delivered the cruelest blow. And Emily? We told her Grandma is confused, that you say crazy things. It's better if she doesn't visit anymore. The poor child barely asks about you now. Her words pierced me deeper than any knife. Emily, my only light, was being turned against me. I glanced at my watch. 40 minutes had passed since I had sent that text. My heart pounded, but I kept my face calm. David was still bragging when his phone rang. He frowned, then answered with his usual arrogance. Yes, this is David. His face shifted, confidence melting into confusion, then horror. Frozen? What do you mean frozen? That's impossible. I have full authorization. His voice cracked. Jessica's laugh faltered. Panic flickered in her eyes. David hung up, dialed another number. The mortgage bank, he muttered, sweating. That call ended worse. Canceled, but we just refinanced. Who authorized? His words stumbled. The phone kept ringing. Each call brought worse news. Credit cards declined, bank accounts frozen, loans revoked, even the Tesla, gone. Jessica fumbled in her purse. "I'll pay the bill." She pushed a credit card toward the waiter. Declined. Another. Declined. One more. Declined. David tried his own cards. Declined. 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 Humiliation cracked across their faces like porcelain shattering. They were drowning in the same restaurant where they expected to see me beg. "Mom," Jessica whispered, her voice trembling for the first time in years, "do you know anything about this?" And for the first time in years, I saw fear in her eyes. I looked straight at Jessica and smiled. Just a small smile, but enough for her to understand this wasn't coincidence. "Me?" I asked softly, tilting my head. "I'm just an old, ignorant woman who doesn't understand modern finance. Remember?" David's face twisted with rage and terror. "What did you do, witch? What did you do?" The waiter cleared his throat nervously. "Excuse me, but the bill must be paid." Jessica and David panicked. No money, no cards, nothing. Calmly, I pulled out my worn old wallet, the same one they mocked. I placed $25 on the table. "Here's for my water," I said evenly. "As for your meals, well, you're the financial experts. I'm sure you'll figure something out." I rose, smoothed my dress, and turned to leave. Jessica grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "You can't just leave us here." Tears welled in her eyes, panic tearing through the mask. "We're your family." David nodded desperately. "Mrs. Margaret, please, let's talk. We can fix this." I pulled away. "Family?" My voice was calm, almost gentle. "Family doesn't give their mother $500 a month for toothpaste while stealing everything she built." I walked away. Jessica's voice cracked behind me. "Mom, wait, it was just a joke. We can explain." But I didn't turn back. I walked 3 blocks before finding a small cafe. The warm smell of coffee embraced me. I sat in a corner, ordered a cup, and finally let my hands stop trembling. My phone rang. A familiar number, William, my lawyer. "Mrs. Margaret," his calm voice said, "it's done. The joint accounts are closed, the cards canceled, the loans tied to your properties revoked. Since you were the primary guarantor, you had every right to withdraw support." William had been my lawyer for 15 years. I hired him when I made my first investments. He was discreet, brilliant, loyal. Years ago, he drafted revocation clauses and standby letters. One message from me and the entire structure would collapse. He knew women like me needed quiet legal protection. "Do you want me to proceed with the next step?" he asked. There was a plan, one we had built years earlier, in case my family turned against me. I had prayed I'd never need it, but that night I realized I had prepared for this exact moment. "Not yet," I told William. "First, I want them to feel what it means to be helpless." When I hung up, memories swept through me, decades of pretending to be submissive, simple, naive. While they believed I could only cook and sew, I built a silent empire, 3 rental properties in downtown Boston, a 20-year investment account, and legal shields designed precisely for this day. My phone vibrated again. "Jessica," I answered. "Mom!" Her voice cracked with panic. "Please, you have to help us. We can't pay the bill. They're going to call the police." In the background, I heard David yelling hysterically. I let her voice linger in the air before replying calmly. "Jessica, do you remember what you said an hour ago? That I had fulfilled my purpose and it was time for me to rest?" Silence. "Well," I said, "that's exactly what I intend to do. Rest." "But we're your family," she screamed. "You can't abandon us like this." The hypocrisy almost made me laugh. "Abandon you? Like you were about to abandon me in a care home with $500 for toothpaste? I ended the call and silenced my phone. The next morning, William called again. His voice carried that restrained excitement that meant he had discovered something big. After last night, I dug deeper into David's finances, he said. My stomach tightened. What did you find? David isn't the financial expert he pretends to be. He's been laundering money. Suspicious transfers to offshore accounts. Transactions that don't match his income. And Jessica? My breath caught. What about her? She's listed as beneficiary on several shell accounts. Regular payments labeled consulting, but with no real work. She's been receiving dirty money, Mrs. Margaret. The words hit me like a blow to the chest. My own daughter. That's why they wanted your inheritance so desperately, William explained. It wasn't just greed. It was survival. David owes around $800,000 to an organization that doesn't forgive. He planned to use your inheritance to pay the debt and flee the country. He and Jessica already had tickets for tomorrow night, to the Cayman Islands. The room spun. They were going to run, I whispered. And me? William hesitated. His silence said more than words. Mrs. Margaret, he finally said, from the documents I found, you were going to have an accident. Something natural for a woman your age. A slip in the bathroom. A fall down the stairs. Something convenient. The floor seemed to dissolve beneath me. My children hadn't just planned to rob me. They had planned to kill me. There's more, William said. His voice carried a weight that pressed down on my chest. They weren't going to keep you alive once they had your money. I have recordings, Mrs. Margaret, straight from David's own phone. My hands shook so violently I had to grip the edge of the table. You have proof. Somehow my voice sounded steadier than I felt. I have everything. Bank records, emails between David and his criminal contacts, text messages between him and Jessica about how to handle you, and recordings. He sent me the files. My hands trembled so hard I barely managed to press play. David's voice came through, cold and calculated. As soon as the old woman signs, we move quickly. A household accident, something simple. Jessica, you'll need a solid alibi. And then my daughter's voice. And Emily? She'll ask about Grandma. David laughed. We'll tell her Grandma went on a long trip. Kids forget fast. In a year, she won't even remember she had a grandmother. I dropped the phone. My body shook. My daughter, my own blood, had agreed to erase me from existence. William's voice steadied me. There's more you need to know. The men David owes, they're already looking for him. He lost his last chance to pay when the accounts froze last night. They won't wait long. What does that mean? I asked, though part of me already knew. It means David and Jessica are in mortal danger. These people don't forgive debts this size. If he can't pay in 48 hours, he didn't need to finish. My children had dug their own graves while digging mine. What do we do now? I whispered. We can hand everything to the authorities, William said. Or we can wait. Desperation makes people sloppy. Sloppiness leaves trails. I sat in silence, my mind racing. They hadn't just plotted to rob me. They had lived on blood-stained money for years and planned to kill me. William, I finally said, my voice low, make sure Emily is completely safe. She's innocent. She cannot suffer for what her parents did. Already arranged, William assured me. My best investigators are watching her around the clock. Nothing will happen without us knowing. Relief washed over me. Second, I continued, freeze every other account they might still have, all of it. I want them unable to buy even a stick of gum. Done. And third, I said, my voice hardening, let David's creditors know he's planning to run. Let them know he intends to escape without paying. For the first time, William chuckled. That's brilliant. You'll trap them in a cage with no exit. Exactly. They can't run because they're being watched. They can't pay because they're broke. They can't ask for help because no one knows the truth about their crimes. I felt something cold but satisfying awaken in me. They'll feel exactly what I felt in that restaurant, trapped, humiliated, defenseless. That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to see Emily at school. William had assured me she was under discreet protection, but I needed to see her with my own eyes, to remind myself why all of this mattered. I waited by the gate until the bell rang. Children spilled out, laughter and backpacks bouncing, and then I saw her, my little Emily, 8 years old, pink backpack, messy braids. When she spotted me, her face lit up like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Grandma!" she cried, running into my arms. I held her tight, inhaling the strawberry scent of her shampoo. "Mommy said you were sick," she whispered. "She said you couldn't visit." I stroked her hair. "I'm fine, my love. How are you?" Her big eyes, so much like Jessica's before greed hardened them, looked up at me. "Grandma, Mommy and Daddy are acting strange. Last night they came home late, yelling. Mommy cried." My chest tightened. "What were they saying, sweetheart?" She shrugged. "Something about money, something about you. Daddy said bad words. Mommy kept saying it was all your fault." I swallowed hard. Yes, it was my fault, for letting them feed on my kindness for so long. I knelt to meet her eyes. "Emily, would you like to stay with Grandma for a few days? We could bake cookies, watch movies, go to the park." Her face lit up. "Yes, but I have to ask Mommy." "Don't worry, sweetheart," I said gently. Grandma already talked to her. It was a lie, but a necessary one. I would not let her innocence be devoured by their darkness. I took her not to the small house Jessica and David believed was all I had, but to my true home, a paid-off mansion in a quiet Philadelphia neighborhood with a backyard where Emily could play safely. While she ran outside, I called William. "Emily is with me." "Perfect," he replied. "And I have news. David didn't show up at work today. He called in sick, but the truth is he's terrified to leave home. His creditors already came to his office. They were aggressive. His boss is considering suspending him." I looked through the window at Emily on the swing, her laughter echoing through the yard. Everything was unfolding exactly as planned. "And Jessica?" I asked. "She's frantic. Tried every bank for emergency loans, denied. Her credit is ruined. Tried to pawn her jewelry, but they turned out to be cheap fakes. Likely David bought them just to show off." The irony nearly made me laugh. "There's more," William added. "Jessica went to your old house today, searching for hidden money or documents. Of course, she found nothing. I had kept my real assets far from their greedy hands. They thought I was a poor widow living on scraps. They had no idea." Then William's voice sharpened. "I've also informed David's creditors that he's planning to flee without paying. I gave them his address and routine." "How did they react?" I asked. "As expected. They gave him until tomorrow at noon. Any attempt to run will be considered war." "Perfect. David and Jessica were trapped in a cage they built themselves. They couldn't run because they were watched. They couldn't pay because they had no funds. And they couldn't ask for help because no one else knew about their crimes." My phone rang. Jessica. I decided to answer this time, curious to hear her desperation. "Mom." Her voice was hoarse, as if she'd cried for hours. "Is Emily with you? Please tell me you have Emily." "Emily is perfectly safe," I answered coldly. "She's where she should have always been, with someone who truly loves her." "Mom, please, we need to talk. This is out of control." Her voice broke. "David says dangerous people are after us." "Dangerous people?" I feigned surprise. "What are you talking about, Jessica?" "You know what I'm talking about. Somehow you found out about David's business." Her mask of innocence had finally cracked. "Oh," I said softly. "You mean the money laundering? The $800,000 David owes criminals? The plan you both had to steal my inheritance and then kill me. Silence. How do you know that? She whispered. I'm just an old, ignorant woman who doesn't understand finance, remember? I replied, lacing my words with sarcasm. But apparently I understand recordings, like the ones where you planned my death. Jessica began to sob. Mom, please, it was all David. He forced me. I never wanted to hurt you. Lies. I had the recordings where she laughed about Emily forgetting me. Jessica, I said with a calm that surprised even me, you and David had a chance to treat me with dignity, with respect, with love. Instead, you chose to humiliate and threaten me. We can fix this, she cried. We can go to the police. We can confess. David can give the money back. With what money, Jessica? With mine, the money you planned to steal? Mom, these people will kill us. Her terror was palpable. If we don't have the money by tomorrow at noon, David says they'll... She trailed off, but she didn't need to finish. They'll do exactly what you planned to do to me, I said for her. Please, she begged. I know you have money hidden. We always knew you had more than you claimed. Just lend us $800,000. We promise to pay you back. Her desperation was music to my ears. Promise, I laughed. Like you promised me a family dinner. Instead, you gave me a badge that said, limited guest. That was different. Different how? Because this time it's you begging for help. In the background, I heard David shouting, hysterical, terrified. Jessica, I continued, let me ask you something. If the roles were reversed, if I were the one begging, what would you do? Silence stretched between us. We both knew the answer. Exactly, I said. You would do what you did last night, laugh at my suffering and tell me I'd already fulfilled my purpose in life. Mom, please, think of Emily. She'll be orphaned. That was the last straw. Emily is already being cared for by someone who truly loves her, I said. Someone who won't use her innocence as a shield for crime. I hung up and silenced my phone. Outside, Emily played happily, blissfully unaware of the storm. My phone rang again. Jessica. This time I answered, curious to hear just how desperate she had become. Mom! Her voice was ragged, as if she had cried for hours. Is Emily with you? Please, tell me you have Emily. Emily is perfectly safe, I said flatly. She's where she should have always been, with someone who truly loves her. Mom, please, we need to talk. This has spiraled out of control. Her voice cracked. David says dangerous people are after us. Dangerous people? I asked, feigning surprise. What on earth are you talking about, Jessica? You know what I mean. Somehow you found out about David's business. The mask of innocence had finally fallen. Oh, I said softly, you mean the money laundering. The $800,000 David owes to criminals. The plan you both had to steal my inheritance and then kill me. The silence on the line was suffocating. How do you know that? Jessica whispered. I'm just an ignorant old woman who doesn't understand modern finance, remember? I replied with cold sarcasm. But apparently, I understand recordings, like the ones where you both plotted my death. Jessica sobbed. Mom, please. It was all David. He forced me. I never wanted to hurt you. Lies. I had recordings of her laughing about how Emily would forget me after I was gone. Jessica, I said calmly, you and David had the chance to treat me with dignity, respect, and love. Instead, you chose humiliation and threats. We can fix this, she screamed. We can go to the police. We can confess. David can give the money back. With what money, Jessica? With mine. The money you were planning to steal. Mom, they'll kill us. Her terror was palpable. If we don't have the money by tomorrow at noon, David says they'll... She didn't finish the sentence. They'll do exactly what you both planned to do to me, I finished for her. Please, she begged. I know you have money hidden. We always knew you had more than you claimed. Just lend us $800,000. We promise to pay you back. Her desperation was like music to my ears. Promise, I laughed. Like you promised me a family dinner. Instead, you gave me a badge that said limited guest. That was different. Different how? Because this time it's you begging for help. Behind her, David's voice was shrill, panicked. Jessica, I asked, if the roles were reversed, if I were begging, what would you do? Silence stretched between us. We both knew the answer. Exactly, I said. You'd laugh at my suffering and tell me I'd already fulfilled my purpose in life. Mom, please, think of Emily. She'll be orphaned. That was the final straw. Emily is already being cared for by someone who truly loves her, I said. Someone who won't use her innocence as a shield for crime. I hung up and silenced my phone. Outside, Emily kept playing, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering around her. An hour later, William called. Mrs. Margaret, there's movement. David just left the house with a suitcase. My men are following. Does he think he can run? Possibly. Or maybe he's desperately trying to raise money. Either way, our other friends are following too. David has no idea he's being tracked by multiple groups. Perfect. Let him make a mistake. Let him do something desperate that seals his fate. And if he hurts someone innocent in his desperation, that's why Emily is with me and why you have men on him. David's a coward. When cowards panic, they usually only hurt themselves. That night, while Emily slept peacefully in the guest room, my phone buzzed endlessly. Unknown numbers, frantic texts, even a video call attempt. All from Jessica and David, more hysterical each time. I finally answered one call to gauge their desperation. It was David. His voice was completely broken. Mrs. Margaret, please listen. I know we've done terrible things, but you don't understand the situation we're in. I'm listening, David, I said coldly. But be quick. I have more important things to do. These people, the ones I owe money to, they're not normal people. They run the drug trade in this city. If I don't pay tomorrow— Yes, I know, I cut him off. They'll kill you, just like you and Jessica planned to kill me. That was different, he shouted. You're old. You've already lived your life. We're young. We have a future. The arrogance stunned me. Even begging for his life, he believed mine was worth less. David, I said with icy calm, you just confirmed exactly why you deserve everything happening to you. You can't let us die, he pleaded. Think of Emily. She needs her parents. Emily needs parents who aren't criminals, I replied. Parents who don't plan murders for money. I'll give you everything. Everything we have. The house, the car, anything. Just help us escape the country. I laughed. Everything you have. David, you have nothing. The house is mortgaged with my money. The car was bought with laundered cash. Jessica's jewelry is fake. You literally have nothing of value. The silence told me he finally grasped the depth of his ruin. Besides, I added, do you really think I'd help two people who recorded themselves plotting my death, detailing how they'd stage an accident? You heard those recordings? His voice collapsed. Every word. David, every plan about how Emily would forget me. Every scheme about how you'd spend my money after my funeral. David broke down, sobbing like a child. Please, tell us what we have to do. Anything. We'll kneel, kiss your feet, be your slaves. David, I said softly, there's one thing you and Jessica never understood. Respect can't be bought with desperate pleas. Love can't be earned back with empty promises. And trust, once broken the way you broke it, can never be repaired. Then what do you want from us? He screamed. Do you want us to die? Do you want Emily to be an orphan? I hung up and silenced my phone. My peace lasted less than 20 minutes. Noises outside my house. I peeked through the window and saw Jessica's car parked on the street. Jessica and David were at my door, arguing in low, frantic voices. I called William immediately. "They're here," I whispered. "At my house." "My men are 2 minutes away," he assured me. "Are they armed?" "I don't know, but David looks unstable." The doorbell rang, again and again, then pounding. "Mom!" Jessica screamed. "We know you're in there. We saw the lights. We need to talk." Her voice carried a hysterical edge that chilled me. David joined in. "Mrs. Margaret, we just want Emily back. Give us our daughter." A lie. If they cared for Emily, they wouldn't have dragged her into their criminal world. The pounding grew louder. "Open the door," David shouted. "We know you have money. You've been lying to us for years." His voice was growing harsher, more desperate. I slipped upstairs to check on Emily. Thank God, she was still asleep, undisturbed. Back downstairs, I cautiously looked out the window. David paced like a caged animal, yelling into his phone. Jessica sat on the steps, crying, pulling at her hair. My phone buzzed, a text from William. "My men are in position, but there's a problem. Others are here too. 3 cars with armed men are parked nearby. They're waiting." My blood ran cold. David's creditors had found my address, probably followed them. My safe haven was surrounded. Another text. "Don't move. Don't turn on more lights. I'm calling federal contacts." But I knew local police might take too long, and David, in his panic, could do something reckless that would endanger Emily. Outside, David had ended his call and was now shouting louder. "Margaret, I know you can hear me. They're here. They're waiting. If you don't give me the money now, they'll come in and hurt Emily." An empty threat. David had no control over those men, but desperate men are unpredictable, and armed criminals outside my home were unacceptable. I made my decision. I dialed the direct emergency number William had given me. "Code red," I said simply. "Understood," he replied. 3 minutes. Code red meant the ultimate fallback. William's federal contacts, capable of responding faster and stronger than local police. It also meant revealing every card we held. Jessica pounded both fists against the door. "Mom, please, just give us the money and we'll leave. I promise we'll never bother you again." Her promises meant nothing. I had heard her voice plotting my death. David crept to the living room window, trying to peer inside. Our eyes met. His gaze burned with desperate madness. "She's right there," he screamed to Jessica. "The old witch is right there. She's laughing at us." David started searching the yard. He found a large rock and marched toward the window. "If you don't come out, I'll smash this window," he shouted. "I'll get that money myself." This had gone too far. I grabbed my phone and yelled loud enough for him to hear. "David, if you break that window, I'm calling the police right now." "Call whoever you want," he snapped, his voice cracking. "Those people are going to kill me anyway. At least I'll get the money first." He raised the rock, and at that exact moment, the most beautiful sound filled the night. Sirens, not just one, many. Red and blue lights painted the walls. David froze. The rock suspended mid-air. Jessica's tear-filled eyes widened in terror. But these weren't only police sirens. I also heard the deep rumble of federal vehicles. William had kept his promise. Reinforcements had arrived. The criminals who had been waiting in the surrounding streets must have realized it too. Car lights sped off in every direction. David and Jessica were now completely alone, surrounded. No escape. David dropped the rock and bolted toward his car, but before he reached it, 3 police cruisers and 2 FBI vehicles boxed him in. Armed agents jumped out, tactical and precise. Jessica collapsed on the steps, sobbing. David raised his hands, finally realizing his nightmare had arrived. Not the way he expected, but final nonetheless. The agents moved with military precision. David was handcuffed instantly, shouting about his rights, calling it all a misunderstanding. Jessica tried to run toward the house, likely to reach Emily, but was stopped before she reached the stairs. "Mom!" she screamed as they restrained her. "Tell them this is a mistake! Tell them we're your family!" But I stood silently at the window, watching justice catch up to the two people who had planned my death. An older agent approached my door. His gray hair and calm eyes carried authority. "Mrs. Margaret, FBI, your lawyer gave us evidence of criminal activity. Are you safe?" I opened the door slightly. "I'm fine, Agent Rodriguez. My granddaughter is asleep upstairs. Can we keep voices down?" He nodded with respect. "Of course, ma'am. We understand there's a minor in the house. She'll be fully protected." Outside, David shouted, "This is persecution! That crazy old woman set us up!" His words only confirmed the agent's suspicions. Jessica, meanwhile, sat in the back of a squad car, staring blankly into space. "Mrs. Margaret," Rodriguez continued, "your lawyer delivered substantial evidence of money laundering, attempted homicide, and conspiracy. Can you confirm its authenticity?" The flash drive was already on the side table next to my tea mug. I slid it toward him. "Every word," I said firmly. The rock was still in the air when the sirens turned the corner. 1, 2, 3, followed by the heavy growl of armored engines. David froze, arm raised. My hand tightened on the cold doorknob. Upstairs, Emily's steady breathing drifted through the ceiling. "Keep sleeping, my love," I whispered to no one. Red and blue beams cut across the living room. Outside, an agent shouted, "Hands up!" Another barked into the radio, clipped and sharp. Jessica sat on the step, hands to her head, collapsing under the weight of it. The gate creaked, locks clattered, boots hit pavement. The hollow snap of handcuffs split the night. The FBI closed in on David. The IRS followed, clipboards glinting under flashlights. I opened the door just enough for the gray-haired man with calm eyes. "Agent Rodriguez," he said quietly. "Your lawyer sent us solid material. Are you safe?" I nodded, pointing upward. "My granddaughter is asleep upstairs." He inclined his head slightly, respect in the gesture. "We'll conduct everything quietly." Outside, David still tried to salvage dignity. "Persecution. She set us up." His voice cracked mid-word. Jessica stared at the ground as if she could dig a tunnel with her eyes. When agents lifted her, she looked for me. "Mom, Emily." The word mom broke in her throat, too late. "Mrs. Margaret," Rodriguez continued, "we have charges of laundering and attempted homicide. Can you confirm the recordings and records are authentic?" The flash drive was already on the sideboard, next to my teacup. I slid it toward him. "Every word." He nodded. "We'll ensure the child is protected. A social worker is on the way. We'll need your statement tomorrow." William arrived with her 20 minutes later. Tie crooked, voice firm, eyes sharp. He pulled me aside. "This is big, Margaret. Their network's been under investigation for 3 years. What you gave us closes the lid." I only looked at the landing where Emily's teddy bear lay toppled. Emily sleeps. Emily first. As cars pulled away with the children I once called mine, the yard became just a yard again. Wet grass, earth scent, a swing creaking in the wind. I shut the door, pressed my forehead to the wood. In less than 48 hours, I had gone from limited guest to the woman who pressed the right button. Guilt. No, they chose greed, not me. They chose to erase my life, not me. At 2:12 a.m., the gate clanged shut. Silence. The clock ticked. I boiled water. As steam rose, the phone rang. William again, too early for morning. "2 things," he said. "David wants a deal. He's ready to name names. And Jessica asked for a lawyer. She's trying a pathetic defense, that you forced them into crime by denying them access to your money. I laughed without sound. My cup rattled, but only the saucer sang. William, one more thing. Anything. A trust for Emily. Everything goes to her. No access until 25, and only with responsibility clauses. If they ever leave prison, they'll find what they tried to leave for me. Nothing. He exhaled like closing a case file. Poetic justice. Are you sure about disinheriting Jessica? I looked up the stairs. She stopped being my daughter the day she plotted my death. At 9:04 a.m., tiny footsteps in the hallway. Emily came down in pajamas, hair messy, eyes still innocent. Good morning, Grandma. Where are Mommy and Daddy? I knelt to fit into her world. They'll be gone for a while, working in a place where visits aren't allowed. Meanwhile, you stay with me. Is that okay? Forever? Forever. She hugged me tight. Here, I feel safe. When the sun touched the yard, the phone rang again. A grave, cordial voice. I'm the director of a local foundation. We heard your story. We want to start a program for elderly victims of family and financial abuse. Legal help, emotional support, rebuilding lives. Would you lead it? I looked at Emily's small handprint on the glass. The sirens were gone. The world outside still roared. Inside, one answer fit. I will. If I had known what that single word would ignite, perhaps I'd still have said it. 3 months later, a blue sign read, New Beginnings. We hung it together, me, 2 volunteer lawyers, a psychologist with an easy laugh, and a group of women who had learned survival before they ever learned how to ask. In the first month, 20 cases, pensions drained by entrepreneur sons, signatures stolen in hospital corridors, whispered threats dressed as prayers. Each story deepened my certainty that firmness is also care. In my office drawer, a thick letter arrived with a prison stamp. Dear Mother. I read it standing, leaning on the filing cabinet. Jessica listed sins with the precision of someone finally facing a mirror. Greed, neglect, cruelty. She blamed David, then retracted, admitted her own choices. 3 pages. I don't expect forgiveness, she ended. I kept it, not with fire, not with tears. Maybe it was remorse, maybe strategy. Either way, too late. Time makes quiet noises. 1 year turned into 5. Emily grew in inches and in spirit. At 13, she walked into my office with a notebook and a decision. I want to be a lawyer like William. I want to protect grandmothers like you protected me. I laughed the way women laugh when water aerobics turns into a revolution. Then start today. 2 pages a week. Stories that end the right way. In the hallway, our program's mural filled with faces. Donna Celeste, who reclaimed her house. Mr. Armando, who learned to say no. A granddaughter holding hands with the grandfather who signed his name again. The blue sign felt small now, but beautifully small, as if it could always grow. On the eve of my 70th birthday, Emily gave me a handmade envelope, glued crooked and full of love. Don't open it now, she said, but I always disobey curiosity when it's for good. Thank you for saving me from a life I didn't know was bad until I saw a good one. Real love doesn't hurt, doesn't threaten, doesn't manipulate. Strength isn't cruelty. Kindness isn't weakness. I reread it slowly, like soup on a cold day. I realized my home, both the brick one and the one inside me, was finally in order. People sometimes ask if I miss the before. Miss what? The woman who accepted a limited guest badge in her own life. The before was a dark room with the curtains closed. The after has light. And a girl who asked to put her name on the trust, Emily Margaret Trust. She can, as long as she remembers why it exists. Jessica's letter remains in the drawer. From time to time, I reread a line, then return it, not out of doubt, out of ritual. The justice I care about isn't the kind that rewrites the past. It's the kind that protects the future. Emily's, Celeste's. Anyone who walks in, trembling with a paper in hand and a bigger tremor in their voice. We offer water, a seat, and the phrase that became our hallway's motto: no one here will ever be a limited guest. If you've listened to my story to the end, tell me, have you ever been humiliated by those meant to protect you? Have you ever had to say enough just to remain yourself? Write it in the comments. I read them. Maybe your story will give another woman the push to close one door and open another, better one. In the end, I learned two truths that fit any age. Respect is not inheritance, it is a boundary. Love without dignity is a debt that cannot be paid. When I turned off the office lights, Emily was waiting in the hallway with a small cake and a crooked candle. Happy birthday, Grandma. The window reflected the two of us, two versions of the same future. I blew out the candle and made the right kind of wish, the kind that doesn't depend on luck. On the drive home, the city rolled by, unaware the night was important. That made it even more so. At home, I let the phone ring unanswered, messages piled up, numbers unknown, promises I no longer owned. I closed the door. Locks. Good silence. Tomorrow at 9, we'll handle 3 more cases. If needed, 10. There's space. There's coffee. There's law. There's embrace. And there's a blue sign on the wall repeating for anyone who forgot, for anyone who needs to hear it again. New beginnings. Now it's for everyone, including you.